Well, it wouldn't be a NASCAR season nowadays if Denny Hamlin wasn't involved in controversy for at least one race. This past weekend's race was certainly one to remember, but not for a good cause. I'm going to be giving you guys my full review on the Toyota Owners 400 at the Richmond Raceway. The first thing that I want to applaud NASCAR for is for actually trying the wet weather package in a points-paying race on an oval. I almost felt like the racing was better in the first 30 laps than it was for the rest of the race. Whether that's the tire has more grip on the water, or the water itself allows for the grip to get into the tire, it seemed that the cars were able to go in more grooves than they had been the entire night. In the 30 laps alone in the opening lap, we saw 2 and even 3 wide racing. One thing that I was a little bit confused about though was NASCAR saying the laps weren't going to count when they came to do the non-competition pit stops. It seemed like the laps still counted and we wasted over 15-20 laps under caution, so if that was the case, why not just wait to dry the track for another 30 minutes and then get going on slick so we could save the laps? This race was honestly everything I expected and nothing more. I don't understand how Richmond still has 2 dates. Regardless of fan experience or even attendance, Richmond has been one of the lousiest tracks on the schedule for the past few years. I mean, even look at Pocono, for example. They took away one of the Pocono races, and now the stands have been packed for every year since, and the racing every year since they dropped it to one race has been fantastic. I have been to Richmond before, so I will say that yeah, the fan experience is fun, but I was there for the 2021 night race. Honestly, the pre-race festivities were better than the actual racing. It's just been bad, so like we really need to cut back on the races here. The attendance looked pretty poor on TV, and I think this is because of the race being on Easter Sunday at night. I really think if NASCAR wants to keep a race on Easter weekend, they should run it Saturday night, and you would get a lot more people showing up. Also, I think they should be targeting new markets for races on Easter weekend. Another thing that I expected was the drivers that I picked earlier in the week to be as dominant as they were, and really out of the 5 drivers that I picked to possibly win this race, 4 out of the 5 of them finished in the top 10 except Bubba Wallace, who had a bad stop and ended up finishing 13th. I was very impressed with myself that most of the drivers that I picked finished inside the top 10. On top of that, I talked about Josh Berry having a good run. He had a fantastic run, and just like last year at this track, he started in the 30s and he made his way to the front. This year he finished 11th. And I told you guys about Joey Logano. Watch out for him. I know he didn't win, but second place, highest Ford, I called it. Now let's talk about some of the bigger issues that occurred during this race. Before we get into the big one, we're going to talk about another one, and this is the fact that NASCAR threw a caution for Kyle Busch when he barely brushed the wall, and this ended up ruining the race's strategy. This put everybody on the same strategy for the rest of the race. Cars couldn't pass unless they were on different tire strategies, and this caution killed any chance of that. There was no need for a caution to come out here, and this is a track where you don't want cautions to come out to re-rack the field because the tire wear is the only thing that allows for passing with the different strategies, and that's what makes the racing good here. There is nothing else that this track offers in multiple grooves or anything like that. At least for last night, we saw nothing. Alright, let's talk about the big one, and that is Denny Hamlin jumping the restart and going on to win the race. I'm first going to look at him jumping the restart, and I hope you guys hear me out on this, and then we'll talk about him using up his teammate in the corner. Yes, Denny Hamlin jumped the restart 100%. I don't understand why people are mad at him and not more mad at the NASCAR officials and head of competition for allowing this to happen. This rule should just be as crystal clear as the yellow line rule, and we all know how NASCAR polices that differently nowadays. It's simple. If you leave before the zone, you're penalized. I'm curious to see the SMT data if they ever release it, but I also think it still wouldn't have mattered because Denny Hamlin was the control car, and I still think he wins this race even if he doesn't leave early. Not only is Martin Truex Jr. not the best restarter, he didn't have the preferred line entering turn 1. Now moving on to the portion of him using up Truex in turn 1. I don't see anything wrong with that. You're racing to win, and I feel like any other driver would have done the same thing. And if it was another driver who had run Denny Hamlin up the track, or a driver that people don't like up the track, then the move would have been celebrated. Just because it's Denny Hamlin who would go on to win, it's an issue. Martin Truex Jr. is frustrated that he led over 200 laps, but when the opportunity presents itself to win, you take it, and that's exactly what Denny did. And we've seen this move before, dating back to the 90s for race wins on short tracks. So yes, Denny Hamlin jumped the restart and probably should have been penalized because if it's clear that you go before the line, then that's the penalty, so penalize them. But using up his teammate, if that's what you want to call it, was not as severe as people are making it out to be. It's not like he crashed him or dumped him. He simply just drove him up the track. He didn't run him into the wall. I'm going to double down and say if somebody else were to do it to a driver that people dislike, it would have been celebrated. I also don't understand why Truex was so mad at Kyle Larson at the end of the race, but that was bizarre to see him door checking the 5 all the way to the final lap to the checkered flag. This could have been frustration, but it was just strange to see Truex act like this. So considering all the factors from this race, my rating for this week, I'm going to give this race a 6 out of 10. The racing was not very attractive for the middle portion of this race, and the only cool moments were the first 30 laps, and then the last few laps when it looked like Hamlin and Logano were going to catch Truex before the caution came out, and then everything changed. So let me know what you guys thought of this race. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Comment your thoughts below, and as always, I appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.